fashion, 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 fashion oozing out of me.
Speak where your veins are popping out of your forehead.
I apologize, and I said
Kyle,
to you,
wait a second.
I will not talk to him again. What more do you want from me?
I want you to stop raising your voice at me.
No,
Listen, you don't get to speak to me that way. Standing up, going to the center stage, delivering the line, and then flipping her hair, coming back and feeling very good about herself. That's not a showman. That's a bitch. And that is how you get a Birkin. I had seen this fantastic runway show, and the models were wearing gold leaf in their hair. And I thought, what a great moment for a diamonds and rosé party.
Meet Dorit Kemsley, a cast member on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, who built her entire brand on designer labels, an ever-changing accent, and the illusion of effortless luxury. But behind the glam, a growing list of controversies, lawsuits, and one of the most questioned robberies in Housewives history.
Grabbed me, put me down, get down to the ground, I'm gonna kill you. Put a gun to me, and I was just hunched over, sobbing, going, please, please, I have little babies. Please, I'm a mother. Please, I beg of you, my kids need me. Please, 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 please.
Over time, people began comparing her to Erika Jayne, another housewife whose lavish lifestyle came under scrutiny, and it's not hard to see why. Dorit and her now estranged husband, Paul Kemsley, have faced repeated accusations of unpaid debts, while their relationship and eventual split played out across headlines and tabloids. For years, Dorit managed to stay afloat, hiding behind couture, curated perfection, and of course, that accent. But it was only a matter of time before the cracks started to show, leaving audiences questioning not just her finances, but her entire place on the show. Today, we're diving into the downfall of Dorit Kemsley, a housewife whose empire wasn't just built on luxury, but on a carefully crafted illusion that's now starting to fall apart. For those unaware, Dorit Kemsley is an American fashion designer. Before joining the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, she spent years working in Italy in fashion, and later launched her own swimwear and resort brand, Beverly Beach. When she arrived on the show in season 7, she was married to British property developer Paul Kemsley. From the very beginning, her presence came with a bit of a question mark. While her appearance was undeniably attention-grabbing, it was always surrounded by a sense of confusion. At first glance, she was everything a Beverly Hills housewife should be, draped in luxury designer brands, with a fashion sense that felt almost too perfect. Private jets, luxury cars, a full glam team at her disposal. Everything about her lifestyle painted a picture of extreme wealth, and yet something didn't quite add up. There was always an underlying feeling that Dorit was playing a role, presenting a version of herself that didn't fully align with reality. For instance, her accent became a topic of discussion the moment she stepped onto the show. Dorit explained that growing up in a multicultural household and living around the world shaped the way she speaks. But many viewers weren't convinced. The accent seemed inconsistent, shifting depending on the situation, and to some, it came across as heavily manufactured.
We'll go from New York to Milan and from Milan to London.
New York to Milan, okay.
Pete and I moved to Beverly Hills about 2 years ago. We're going to skip the premiere in Milan. We are constantly surrounded by celebrities, all the time.
Then there was her husband, PK. He frequently inserted himself into the women's drama, and at times crossed the line with inappropriate comments. Naturally, that criticism extended to Dorit as well, especially since she often stood by or even enabled the behavior. In fact, Dorit herself wasn't exactly drama-free either. One of her earliest and most infamous controversies, known as the Panty Gate, perfectly captured her chaotic energy. It all started when Erika showed up to a party without wearing underwear under a short dress, and PK just happened to be seated directly across from her. What could have been an awkward, one-off moment was instead blown wildly out of proportion, largely by Dorit and PK, spiraling into an ongoing scandal that the show would later dub Pantygate.
Sorry, but Kyle needs some underwear.
I don't have any.
Oh!
That's right. Don't put your hands up. Dress.
You know, the funny thing is I was sitting there, and obviously, you know, I'm a straight male, so I noticed quite early on. I knew it wasn't nude underwear. But I'm never going to say anything because it's completely inappropriate.
I don't know if she deliberately flashed anyone, but he's a man for crying out loud. I completely understand PK could not stop staring at Erika's hoo-ha.
Let me just... You took that and you ran with that, so congratulations to you.
Does it feel good to tell Dorit, go f yourself? Yeah, it does.
Erica, don't do that.
I've done nothing to this woman. And all she can do is talk about Erica.
To me, are you so defensive? Why can't you be like, I f***ed up, I'm so sorry
Lisa,
that my husband was glaring at your f***ing vagina, I'm sorry.
As time went on, the financial cracks Dorit had been hiding from both the cast and the audience also slowly began to show. It turned out that the glamorous life and effortless wealth she presented on screen wasn't entirely what it seemed, as PK's financial history was marked by rumors, lawsuits, and ongoing controversies. And this didn't just start during the show, it went back years before Dorit Kemsley ever joined the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. In 2009, before Dorit even married him, Paul Kemsley's company went into administration during the global financial crisis, and he was declared bankrupt in the United Kingdom. He reportedly owed tens of millions of pounds to creditors, including major institutions like Barclays. By 2013, PK had moved to the United States in what appeared to be an attempt at a fresh start, and in 2015, he married Dorit, but before relocating and rebranding his life, he seemingly left behind significant financial baggage, with reports suggesting that large portions of his debt were still unresolved. Then came 2016, when Dorit joined the show, and that's when the real rebrand began. Together, Dorit and PK presented a lifestyle of extreme luxury, as if nothing had ever gone wrong. They showcased a massive home, high-end connections, and hosted lavish parties, while Dorit appeared on screen draped in designer labels from head to toe. But their financial situation became harder to ignore when a Las Vegas casino, Bellagio Hotel and Casino, sued PK for millions of dollars. The lawsuit alleged unpaid gambling debts, and suddenly, the narrative surrounding their wealth started to shift. And it wasn't just PK. In 2018, Dorit faced legal trouble of her own when a former business partner sued her swimwear brand, Beverly Beach, for over $200,000, alleging unpaid dues. Despite everything happening behind the scenes, Dorit's on-screen persona remained completely unfazed. But this time, the other cast members began to notice the growing disconnect between her lifestyle and the headlines. Some of the housewives even started openly questioning where Dorit's money was actually coming from.
I didn't know where you were getting all this money from. I know things for certain.
You can give me whatever you want, Camille. Whatever
You don't want
think.
me to.
She was getting very aggressive and she just kept threatening. I know he owes money to someone, he owes money, and I'm protecting you.
Don't you dare threaten me, sweetheart. Let me tell you something.
I'm protecting you.
You're a little snake.
I'm trying to protect you.
Oh, Camille.
It was designed to hurt me.
You know, and I see Dorit running around with very, very expensive clothes. We're talking about some of her tops could be $2,000 to $3,000, and the pants $2,000 to $3,000. There's a $6,000, outfit, not including the diamonds and the shoes. I question that. I question, like, how can you afford that? And she's acting like, oh, you're so horrible. I mean, give me a break here.
Camille here was asking some hard questions to Dorit, questions that were already brewing in the audience's mind. But Dorit visibly got frustrated and avoided any kind of accountability by saying that her husband's financial affairs were not her problem. While all of this was brewing, and PK and Dorit were being financially exposed in the media, another major controversy would consume her in season 9 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. This scandal involved Lisa Vanderpump and her dog, and it would later be known as Puppygate. It began when Dorit adopted a puppy from Vanderpump Dogs, Lisa's rescue organization. According to the adoption agreement, if the dog didn't work out, it was supposed to be returned to the rescue. Instead, Dorit gave the dog to another family. The situation quickly spiraled when the dog ended up in a shelter, raising serious concerns and sparking widespread discussion throughout the new season.
About this. Dorit adopted Lucy from our foundation, and then the puppy ended up in a shelter. It's handled. So then the shelter alerted us, because we have microchips in all our dogs, that they had one of our dogs down there. I don't want to talk about this right now.
We got this beautiful, adorable little puppy.
Once this story broke, it quickly exploded into a full-blown cast scandal. What could have been a simple mistake became a whirlwind of accusations, leaks, and shifting blame. Dorit maintained that she was trying to do the right thing by rehoming the dog.
From Vanderpump Dogs. She was not the right fit for the family. After Lucy had bit the kids a few times and took a big bite out of PK's face. PK was just...
Yeah, maybe we should find Lucy another place.
Yes, exactly. Well, here I am thinking that she's going to this beautiful home. I get a phone call from Lisa that Lucy ended up in a shelter.
Was Lisa mad at you?
Lisa, the other cast members, and viewers weren't much convinced by this explanation. Questions arose. Why didn't Dorit simply return the dog to Lisa, especially if it had bitten her daughter? That would have been the simplest solution. Instead, the dog ended up in a shelter, while Dorit expected sympathy from the public. The situation escalated into a major feud between Lisa and Dorit, dividing the cast and dominating the season's storyline. The conflict eventually reached a tipping point, leading Lisa Vanderpump, a long-standing, influential figure on the show, to walk away entirely. For Dorit, Puppygate wasn't just another scandal. It was a serious hit to her credibility. And speaking of credibility, it only continued to decline as more seasons aired and media scrutiny intensified. While in May 2019, Dorit Kemsley and Paul Kemsley settled their debt with the Bellagio Hotel and Casino, more financial trouble was already on the horizon. By June 2021, reports surfaced claiming that the couple allegedly owed over $1.3 million in unpaid taxes, further adding to the growing list of concerns surrounding their finances. At this point, people began directly comparing Dorit to Erika Jayne, whose husband's financial scandals had already unfolded very publicly. But what stood out in Dorit's case was her repeated effort on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills to distance herself from PK's financial issues. Time and time again, she framed it as something that had nothing to do with her, insisting that those were her husband's problems, not hers. However, reports like these suggested otherwise, that Dorit herself was also tied to financial obligations, and may not have been entirely transparent. As more information came out, the "that's my husband, not me" narrative started to wear thin, and audiences began to question how much of the truth was actually being told. Slowly but surely, Dorit was losing whatever credibility she had left. Her consistent portrayal of extreme wealth, designer outfits, luxury homes, and extravagant parties, while allegedly dealing with millions in debt, led people to seriously question her integrity. Then, right in the middle of all this, an event occurred that brought even more attention to her life. On October 27, 2021, Dorit's Encino home was invaded by 3 armed robbers. The incident was widely reported by news outlets, and surveillance footage even showed masked men entering the home through a shattered glass window, making the situation appear undeniably serious and alarming.
We have breaking news at 11. Real Housewives robbers caught on camera. It was a terrifying night for a star of the hit show as armed bandits stole thousands of dollars in valuables. Tonight, the LAPD releasing crystal clear news surveillance video that could help bring them to justice.
Later on the show, Dorit revisited the ordeal in detail, claiming that the robbers held her at gunpoint while her children were asleep in the house and stole several luxury items. She described the experience as one of the most traumatic moments of her life.
At me, grabbed me, put me down, get down to the ground, I'm gonna kill you. Put a gun to me, and I was just hunched over, sobbing, going, please, please, I have little babies, please, I'm a mother, please, I beg of you, my kids need me, please, 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 my kids need me, I need you, please. And I was begging, and the other guy was going, just kill her, just kill her.
2 men.
It was 2 men, there was one of them that was collecting all of his stuff. Where are the watches? Where are the cash? Where's the cash? And then the other guy, he stood up and he said, get up, show us where everything is. I said, okay. I stayed very, very calm.
Understandably, the initial reaction from viewers was one of sympathy. Even those who had been critical of her found it difficult not to empathize with the situation. However, as time passed, the timing of the robbery began to raise questions among viewers. This incident had occurred at a point when Dorit and PK were already facing lawsuits, mounting debts, and increasing public scrutiny. For some, the coincidence felt too convenient, especially as more details began circulating online. Even within the cast, there appeared to be subtle skepticism regarding the situation. While no one directly accused Dorit of anything on the show, the underlying tension and doubt were noticeable.
Good. Dorit, how did it feel seeing what Garcelle said about someone orchestrating the break-in? It came up again.
I really don't understand what the obsession is about one of the most traumatic things in my life, something that I suffered terribly for 2.5 years.
This was my feeling. This is the last time I'm going to talk about it. I felt like it was
Hallelujah,
a
because
setup.
you've not stopped talking about it since it happened, Garcelle.
Not stopped talking about it. I talked about it too much.
Literally.
You feel it was a setup.
It's important to note that much of the speculation centered around PK. At the time of the robbery, he was in London, which some people found unusual or convenient. Combined with their ongoing financial troubles, this led to widespread online theories suggesting a possible insurance angle behind the incident. That being said, it is important to point out that none of these claims have ever been proven. The robbery remains officially unsolved, with no confirmed public arrests or named suspects. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the incident added yet another layer of controversy to Dorit's already fragile public image, leaving behind more questions than answers. In the next season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, it wasn't just Dorit Kemsley's image that was suffering. Her marriage was starting to unravel too. Fans had long suspected Paul Kemsley to be a questionable figure. Even when Dorit and PK first appeared on the show with their flirty energy and very deliberate portrayal of a strong, united couple, viewers couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. It looked polished, but also a little too rehearsed, like both of them were playing roles rather than simply being themselves. A lot of that perception came from PK's behavior, his tone-deaf jokes, his sometimes inappropriate comments, and the way he often carried himself in group settings. Dorit, on the other hand, rarely challenged him. Instead, she laughed things off or redirected conversations, which made it seem like she was more focused on maintaining an image than addressing reality. But things truly escalated in 2022, around the time season 12 aired. During this season, Dorit leaned heavily into her recovery arc, openly discussing the trauma she experienced after the robbery and claiming she was dealing with PTSD. However, what stood out more was PK's reaction to it all. He was often seen being dismissive of her experience, at times downplaying her anxiety or responding in ways that felt emotionally disconnected.
The reality is when does high maintenance blend with PTSD?
One of the things that I fell in love with PK when I first met him was he could let go of things so easily. And I feel like in the last few years, he's definitely gotten more harsh with me. A little mean sometimes, like go low. And I don't like that aspect.
When I first met Dorit, she was this bubbly, enthusiastic, beautiful girl, and she was not quite as high maintenance as she is now.
This type of behavior created a noticeable imbalance in Dorit and PK's dynamic. By 2023, rumors about trouble in their marriage had intensified in the media. As season 13 aired, headlines questioning whether Dorit and PK were heading toward a divorce became increasingly common. And unlike earlier speculation, this time there appeared to be some substance behind the rumors. Reports suggested that the two were living separately, and PK was frequently seen traveling alone, something that hadn't been the norm in previous years. Despite all the speculation, Dorit stuck to the same narrative. Over and over again, she denied that anything was wrong, insisting that their marriage was still strong. But by May 2024, the cracks had become impossible to ignore. Dorit and PK officially announced their separation, confirming what many had already suspected. Even then, however, the situation didn't immediately turn hostile. PK continued to make appearances on the show, and the two seemed to maintain a relatively cordial relationship in public. During the reunion episode, Dorit even stated that while they were separated, divorce was not something they were actively pursuing at that moment.
What is the current status of your separation from PK?
Yeah, not good.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The last time you were here, you said that divorce was not part of the conversation. Is that still the case?
You know, it's not part of the conversation, but we're not really communicating, so.
Okay.
This narrative, however, shifted very quickly. Not long after, PK was spotted publicly with another woman, and the footage of the two together went viral. The optics of the situation were hard to ignore, and it immediately changed the tone of the separation. The very next day, Dorit filed for divorce, marking a clear and decisive turning point in their relationship. As of now, the divorce has not been finalized, and instead of settling quietly, the situation has taken a significantly uglier turn. Dorit has claimed that PK cut her off financially, leaving her responsible for expenses, while also allegedly sending a lengthy and threatening email regarding finances and custody arrangements.
You know, PK used to handle everything, and now it's like he's dumped a lot of things in my lap without any notice. I've not had a conversation with PK to learn what he's expecting me to pay or what he's paying. I just find out from the business manager if he decides he's no longer paying something. It lands right in my lap. I don't know what's coming, when it's coming. You know, I have to get a new business manager. I had to get a divorce attorney. PK doesn't give me any money. Doesn't give me any money. He expects me to pay the bills. And he believes he's doing more than enough. I don't even know what he's doing.
Right now, both Dorit and PK are reportedly dealing with ongoing financial pressure, including substantial debt and concerns about their home. On top of that, they are now engaged in a legal and financial battle against each other. Dorit has filed for spousal support, while PK is said to be seeking a share of her earnings from the show. What once looked like a glamorous partnership has now turned into a very public and messy dispute over money and responsibility. The situation is far more chaotic than anyone initially expected, and in the middle of all this, Dorit's relevance on the show has also started to take a hit. Viewers feel that her presence has become repetitive and somewhat predictable. While she still participates in group conflicts and arguments, she is no longer at the center of the storyline in the way she once was. At the same time, her once defining fashionista image has lost much of its impact, especially after her financial and legal issues became public. The luxury lifestyle she once showcased now feels less convincing, which weakens one of the key pillars of her identity on the show. Add to that the fact that other cast members continue to dominate the narrative, and Dorit's role begins to feel increasingly secondary. All of this has led to growing speculation that her future on the show may not be secure. When a cast member is no longer driving the story and no longer bringing something new, questions about their place become inevitable. In the end, Dorit Kemsley stands as an example of how important authenticity is for any public figure. She had a massive platform and managed to hold on to it for years, but a carefully curated persona, a lack of accountability, and ongoing questions about transparency have slowly eroded her credibility. Many of her moments on the show will still be remembered, but as she struggles to bring fresh energy or compelling storylines, viewers are beginning to disengage. And in a space like reality television, where relevance is everything, that shift in audience perception can be the most damaging of all. For now, all that's left is to see what the future holds for Dorit, both on camera and off.